Got another guest in the studio. Glad to welcome in our DA, Warren Montgomery. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Charles. Thank you very much, and good morning to all your listeners.
Good morning to you. So, Mardi Gras, real quick. How does the Montgomery household? What do you do with Mardi Gras?
Well, we go to parades and just like everybody else. We go to parades and yell and scream and ask people to throw me something, mister.
All right, so you normally come in here with kind of an agenda or something you want to talk about. You got something on your mind for today?
Well, I wanted to talk about the child support division of the DA's office. Whenever somebody thinks of the district attorney's office, they think of these big cases, these big prosecutions, and this, that, or maybe even think about speeding tickets.
Sure.
But there's another element of the DA's office, and that is our child support division. And we have a number of outstanding individuals who work in this division. And what they do is to help collect money that individuals owe when they have a child and they're not taking responsibility for that child.
All right, so through a divorce or whatever,
that's correct.
You have to pay this child support.
That's correct. That's your child.
And it goes through your office.
It goes through my office. Well, they don't have to go through my office. I mean, if someone makes the payment, then it doesn't come to my office. But if they fail to make the payment, then that payment will go through my office. And I was pleasantly surprised to learn that over the last 5 years since I've been in office, we've collected over $100 million in child support payment from people who owed that money, and we turned it over to people who need that money, to single parents and kids and everything else who are struggling. And that's a lot of money, and that's a lot of help.
That is a staggering amount of money.
It really is. It really is. And it's not easy. Life is tough, and when you're a single parent and you got a job and you're taking care of your children and all that sort of stuff, and then someone reneges on an obligation, that can really put you into a spiral and makes things very, very difficult. So I'm glad that my office is fair but aggressive in the collection and the payout of child support.
All right, so when somebody does not get what they're due,
yes,
as determined by the courts,
that's correct.
Your folks become involved. Is this mostly? Are they taken to court mostly? Is it just a little arm bending that?
No, you got to take it to court, and you got to get a judicial rule or ruling that this person owes the money, and then you got to go collect it, and that's what my office does.
Okay, $100 million.
I was shocked when I heard that number. About $20 million a year.
Wow. Okay. I've got more questions for the DA. We're talking to our DA, Warren Montgomery, and we'll continue the conversation, and we'll play some Lake Loot. That's all coming up. Want to get back with the DA. We were talking about this kind of crazy number of about $20 million a year that your folks go out.
Yeah, $20 million a year. That's right.
That your folks go out and grab in unpaid child support. How does it end up in your court or in your purview? Right? I mean, like in other words, somebody doesn't pay their child support. What happens?
Well, there's a federal program that finances the people at my office to go out and collect it.
Okay.
And by law, they have to collect it. It's called the 4D program. I said we have to collect it. People have to pay. And so we're financed by the feds, and we file litigation, and require people to pay. And if they don't, they get in a lot of trouble.
And they end up in court, facing off against your people.
Yes. So I want to recommend everybody, and most people do pay. But if you owe child support, pay it. It's a legal obligation, and it's a moral obligation.
All right. We're going to come back in a second, talk more with the DA. We're going to take a quick break. Back with more right after this. Chatting with the DA, Warren Montgomery is here, and we're always glad to see him, and we're glad to see him today, especially because I know you're in the middle of a struggle yourself. You're dealing with some issues, and we've talked about it. You and I have the last couple of times you came. So I hope I could get a little update from basically where you are, and then there was a message you wanted to share as well that you feel is very important.
Yeah, well, I'm a non-smoker, and nobody in my family has ever had cancer. And so last year I had a cough. I just couldn't get rid of it. And finally went in and had a scan, and they found that I had kidney cancer. Mm-hmm. And that is a very, very serious form of cancer. And so I went in and had my kidney removed, and then I started some kind of a clinical trial that apparently is successful.
Fantastic.
It really it's wonderful. It's wonderful because it's a deadly disease. So it looks like I'm headed in the right direction, But, I'm not out of the woods yet. And it's a sad, really, I read the statistic, 30 to 40% of Americans will have cancer in their life. And I was never exposed to it. Nobody in my family had cancer. And so I really recommend to everybody, particularly males between the age of 60 and 65, get your annual physical. Don't disregard that. I know none of us guys, anyway, we don't like to go to doctors, but go get your annual physical and ask them, if you're between the ages of 60 and 65 particularly, ask them to do a scan of your kidneys. Because if you can catch this early, then you don't have to go through all the pain and misery that I've had to go through to get well.
And again, you said this type of cancer really is typical, when it does strike it, it's that age range.
It's that age range, and the other aspect, and this is what makes it so dangerous, is there aren't a lot of symptoms. You really don't know that you're sick. And most guys, and certainly myself, if I'm not feeling well, I just go sit down in the corner and curl up like a dog, and
right.
And but
you really didn't feel bad. I mean, you had a little
I didn't
cough.
feel really bad, but finally I got so tired and so weak. I thought I'd just been working very hard.
Right.
I thought this was just a result of stress and hard work, et cetera, et cetera. But when I went in, they found this cancer. And, so then I had to undergo this surgery and then this treatment. And it looks like it's all working out. But it's much better if you don't have to go through all that.
Of course. Yeah. And you're, the main thing we want to say to folks is get that physical. Don't be scared to ask questions and be, get it out in front of it if there's a problem.
Yeah. What is it? A preventive medicine? Be on the preventive side.
Okay. All right. I'm glad that you shared that with us. We're going to come back and talk more DA business in just a second. We're checking on your traffic next. All right, with our guest, DA Warren Montgomery, and we've talked about child support and the crazy number of dollars that your folks go and get on behalf of folks who aren't getting their child support. There's another program that you do that's been pretty successful, too, and that you're involved in, a diversion program.
That's correct. And, I mentioned the child support program because most people don't even know we have that program. And we have a great group of people who work very hard and really help our community by collecting that child support. Now, they don't get the kudos that they deserve, so I want to give a shout-out to the people in our child support division. But another division that we have is the diversion program, and we have a number of excellent, hard-working, highly ethical, highly professional people who operate our diversion program. And the diversion program is for people who are first-time offenders and have minor offenses. And rather than give them a criminal record, we put them through some people call it a DA probation. We put them through a probationary period, and we don't charge them with a crime. And so they end up with a clean record, even though they did something minor, but they did something that they shouldn't have done. And I'm very, very proud of our diversion program because it helps people, helps them move on with their lives. And the truth is, Charles, most of us will make a mistake sometime in our lives, but the prudent and the smart members of your listeners, and when they make that mistake, they're going to make it one time, they're not going to make it again. And those are the people that the diversion program is meant for, people who made a mistake, but they've repented, so to speak, of their mistake, and they're not going to make it again, and we keep them from having a criminal record.
All right. And I remember we talked about expungement one time with you, too. I mean, your job is to prosecute people who commit crimes, but at the same time, when people have made a mistake or when, you've stepped forward and tried to do things, try to make things right.
Well, I call it the hard power of the DA's office and the soft power of the DA's office. And, of course, the hard power is prosecuting people and, if necessary, putting them in jail and taking them out of society. And that's the bullets and the bombs and the tanks if you're in a military context. So that's what you think of when you think of the DA's office, a hard power. But there's also the soft power, and if you want to look at it from like the diplomacy, so to speak. Let's see if we can persuade these people to change their behavior without having to knock them in the head with a 2x4. And if we can do that, it saves the taxpayers money because we don't have to imprison these individuals. And it also gives them an opportunity, a second chance to move on with their lives because we think they've learned from this experience.
All right. Good stuff from the DA, Warren Montgomery. I'm glad you're feeling well, and we certainly, as always, appreciate the time and your visit.
Charles, thank you for having me on, and thank you to all your listeners. God bless. Have a safe Mardi Gras.